Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Works down by Burke. Bounces into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I am ready to rest, but it was a packed weekend full of all kinds of action. Of course, we've got a lot of basketball to talk about as the Hoosiers will be returning from the Bahamas victorious in 2 games over BC Mega. Most importantly, they're returning on a very good vibe from what appears to have been a very good trip. Everything I'm gaining is obviously from the reports we talked to, from people who've had there and the stats and all of that, but things all look very, very good there. Football practice is back up and running. We've got NASCAR, the results of the Brickyard 400. Chase Briscoe, man, he was so close. How about that? Crazy how close that he actually came in that. He led the Brickyard and was there on the last few laps and was penalized for getting shoved down into the grass. But that's kind of crappy, but it is what it is. But we'll hear from him. Charlie Miller on the show today. Jim Reamer on the show today. We've got plenty to
No
get
Charlie
to.
Miller. No Charlie.
Did I say Charlie? I didn't mean to say Charlie. Zach Osterman's on the show today. Charlie will be with us on Friday. Jim Reamer with us today as well. So we've got plenty to get to and plenty to talk about. I hope you guys are doing well. Had a great weekend, like I said. Dwayne says, good morning, everybody. What a glorious day. Ross is happening. He's up and at it. Ryan, great insight yesterday, Yogis. He agrees Mike Woodson wants to be at IU. Tim says 44 years ago today, oh, man, the king passed away. Man, I can't believe it's been that long, man. Have to have a peanut butter and nanner sandwich today. Some great little trivia tidbits there as we're getting it. The day kicked off on this Monday. I hope you had a great weekend, like I said, and ready to start the week. It's so funny. I had to move all last week, and it was 90 degrees on every one of those days. And as soon as you finish, of course, the humidity goes away, the heat goes away. Crazy. Moved my daughter into Ole Miss over the weekend. I think that was worse than moving myself. She's on the 10th floor of her freshman dormitory. The 10th floor. And last year, what they did over the course of 1 week with people moving in, they had it staggered out. This year, let's do it in 1 day. Yeah, and that worked out exactly as you would think. Apparently, they didn't think that. It was a cluster. But hope everything else is going well. Got that one out of the way early. Glenn's up and at it today. How you doing, brother? Indiana football scrimmage was more secretive than the Bahamas trip. Yeah, from Ross. They definitely, now they are wanting to be secretive. They want to keep things under wraps because their deal's coming to fruition a lot sooner. And against a much more formidable opponent to start the season, as they will open up at Iowa on September 4th. And man, I'm ready to hit the road. Not ready to hit the road. I'm going, but ready for football to start. Very, very excited for that as well. Man, I cannot wait to get to that. It should be an absolutely fun football season, college football and period. The Big Ten, a little more questions this year. Ohio State is thought to be, the leader, of course, but man, we don't know much about their quarterback. Penn State's going to be tough. They've got a very experienced quarterback. Indiana has a very good experienced quarterback. I don't think it's a given that Ohio State is just going to run away with this thing. I don't know that they're quite. They're reachable, man. Indiana showed that last year. How's everybody else doing? What's else is going on that you'd like to talk about? Tim's reaching back in all kinds of history today. In 1997, says Larry Bird wanted Roy Williams to coach the Celtics, didn't get his wish, so he left and took the Pacers head coaching job and became coach of the year. Well, there you go. There's that info. Anything else happening with you guys? John, how was your weekend?
My weekend was just fine. Pretty uneventful, to be quite honest, but sometimes it's good to have an uneventful weekend.
I'm jealous. Ryan's ready for football, man. Like I said, I am too. I'm ready for college football, period, but ready to get this Big Ten. Well, not ready necessarily to get the Big Ten going, but that happens for Indiana as they kick off the Big Ten with an Iowa opponent. So that'll happen quickly for them. Let's see. The clips.
We've got sound and video from Chase and Denny, and then we've also got some clips from Race, Trace, and Xavier Johnson from the Bahamas.
Like I said, Chase Briscoe from Mitchell, Indiana, man. He was, hey, buenos dias, senor Ken. I got to put that up. Buenos dias, senor. Former Spanish teacher in high school. Senorate. Chase Briscoe. And seriously, he came alive yesterday. And let's talk about that race for a second. The Brickyard 400, which used to be a roundy round, and you want to be truthful, it's probably was one of the most boring NASCAR races on the circuit. It still was one of the most premier races because of where it takes place. But I got to tell you, that road course race, other than a few hiccups that they had with placing bumpers, track bumpers and whatnot, it was way more exciting. Yeah, talk about exciting. Glenn's going to be dodging Tropical Storm Fred here. He's down in Tallahassee. Stay safe, my friend. Yeah, the Xfinity race, they had because of how they designed the road course, they put bumpers in certain places. They're called bumpers to keep you. They're things you don't want to run over. You can kind of go up on, but you don't want to run over them completely. Well, they had one in the Xfinity race that was set in a way that those cars hit it, and it just tore those cars to hell. And then they had a bumper in the NASCAR race, the Cup race, that at the very end of the race, these were made out of steel, ironically. Why not make them out of concrete? I guess so you can move them. But it started coming up at the very end of the race, and it affected some of the leaders at the very end and took them out, which was nuts. And then Chase Briscoe gets a penalty. I think it was a BS penalty. But let's hear what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's upset. I would have been too. He just came down there and asked what I was doing. I don't think he realized I didn't even know I had a penalty until we got to turn 10. I asked my spotter after the race and didn't ever hear, but we got to turn 10 and actually exited 10. And that's when he said, hey, we got to stop and turn 10. I even came on the radio. I said, which one's 10? And then I just tried stopping down there because I didn't know if that would make up for it or not. And yeah, I mean, I get why he's upset. I would have been upset too, but Denny's been in my situation where you're trying to go for your first win, and he asked why I didn't wait. Well, I felt like that was my best opportunity to win the race is if I could get under him there, and I knew AJ was going to be quick either way, and I had older tires, so I had to try to get going when I could, and I'm sorry that it ruined his day. That was never my intention. So
Chase Briscoe talking about how his day ended not very well. He was actually got into someone else, but man, he was up there with a shot to win that race. Just did not work out. How would that have been? How incredible would that have been? That would have been bigger to me than Jeff Gordon winning it, bigger than Tony Stewart winning it. That would have been huge just because he's so young. Mike Nias, hello from Evansville. Great show last night. Good show last night. Recruit announcement August 24th. Yep. Schifino, his announcement's coming. We'll talk about that later. Jalen Hood Schifino makes Indiana in his final 5. And August 24th is when he's going to make an announcement. Mike, thanks for joining us down there in Evansville. We appreciate you, brother. Yeah, Glenn, stay safe, man, down there in Tropical Fred on your doorstep. Tim asks, could the Bahamas trip, the play and Woody's coaching, persuade Jalen Hook-Schifino to commit? Well, I don't know. We'll find out on the 24th. Ross commenting on the IMS track tore up a lot of cars. Indy figured it out, though. Yeah, why is that? I think the NASCAR guys get a little more dicey. They try to push it. Briscoe penalty was after you cut off the track. You must pull off. After you cut off the track, you must pull off and stop, then re-enter, but he continued his speed. Well, yeah, but I think that depends on if you were forced or not, and there's different interpretations of that. But regardless, it sucked for him. But hey, man, it would have been great to see a local guy. But can you imagine? That would have been fantastic. But man, he was leading. I think he won. Did he win he's won something before that, but a great day for him. Congratulations to Chase Briscoe getting to run so well at Indy. He's got wins in his future soon, but man, an Indy win would be incredible for him. Looking forward to it. We got a lot of basketball coming up to talk about. Zach Osterman from the Indy Star is going to join us later from still in the Bahamas down there. So we'll get a report from him and talk to him. Last night, of course, we did after the game with Todd Leary. I tell you, John, when you have a chance, we'll get you to pull up something from Todd. He has some great stuff to say. That was just fun. It was fun being back in that scenario, doing the post-game show, talking about basketball. Not that I'm trying to get over football. I'm ready for football. But it was fun talking about a game that not only were they competitive, they were how you expect a team to be. It was way more fun. Trust me, it's a lot more fun covering a winner, but you can tell the type of team. You can just feel it, not even being there. You can tell by listening to the stats, man. So, yeah, that's right. Chris says, talking about Chase Briscoe, he won last year on the road course in the Busch Series. Cool, that's right. Oh, Pete, what's up, brother? Listening up in Minnesota. No hurricanes there. That's the only good thing about living in Minnesota. That has to be the only good thing about living in Minnesota is no hurricanes. I will agree with you there. Let's see. Merle, congratulations to you and Mike Woodson for 2 great wins in the Bahamas. Man, I wish we could lift some Merle on the way out as we're about to hit a break. We've got more Indiana Sports Beat coming up here for you. Jim Reamer's going to join us next. We're back with more, brought to you by Andy Moore Honda right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans. What?
You should have played that other part of the interview with Denny Hamlin. He was talking about why he was pissed about what Chase Briscoe did and screwed him over, but obviously we're past that now.
Well, I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know. I figured Denny won. I didn't know.
No, they got into it at the end. They didn't fight or nothing, but
I thought he
they
said
exchanged
the 10.
some words.
I thought he was talking about the 10 car.
No, he was talking about Denny Hamlin.
Screw Denny Hamlin. He ain't from Indiana.
Are Tony Stewart and Chase Briscoe the only current drivers from Indiana? I don't even know if Tony drives anymore.
He does not.
That shows how long it's been since I've watched NASCAR.
He's the owner of Chase Briscoe's car.
Oh, there you go. Was Jeff Gordon from Indiana, or am I making that up too?
Grew up in Indiana.
Okay. There's Jim.
Oh, no. Ryan Newman.
Ryan Newman. Okay, yep. I've heard that before too.
Forgot. Jimbo.
What's happening?
Oh, I just been sitting around bored for the last week.
My AirPods aren't picking up. Hold on a second.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it took me a minute to get mine clicked in.
Oh, real quick, Jim Coyle. What part of after the game do you want me to get? Because I didn't watch any of it last night.
Probably the first thing he starts talking about, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it should be good.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'll do that during this segment.
Yeah, it's no rush for that. How was your weekend, man?
Relaxing. It didn't do anything.
God damn. I'm looking forward to one of those. I swear, I think after the show today, even though there's football practice, I'm done for the day, man.
You had a long weekend.
Long week.
That's true. You get to move, too. Move yourself and move your daughter.
Yes.
Oh, you moved? Oh, nice.
Yeah, for the 3 days leading up to taking off for Oxford, I had to move myself and finished at midnight Thursday night.
Hey, we got
Friday
10
morning,
seconds.
Did the show. And then
Plan a
left
day
for
on the
Oxford.
links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Oh, welcome back on this Monday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you. Of course, Jim Reamer joining us a little earlier than normal. Moving some things around as schedules are always on the flip. How was your weekend, man?
It was relaxing. Did absolutely, positively nothing. And
Cut his mic off, John. Cut his mic off, man. I'm so jealous. I can't hear that.
I rode my bike, did dinner, to lunch. And
My back's still hurting.
other than that, did nothing.
Oh, well, that sounds glorious. It's absolute glorious. The Indiana basketball, of course, busy over the weekend. Not the AAU
Right.
season. Is it over? Just
I mean,
completely done?
It should be. There's a couple of smaller events that are still going on, and there's a few teams that don't really do much other than this time of year that play in a couple of events. And then some of the kids will sprinkle in and kind of just show up and play a couple of games and be done with it. But you are getting into the facilities that have the back to school leagues. That'll start picking up, and those aren't really AAU teams. They're definitely not school teams. Those are guys with their buddies that don't otherwise get to play together. That they do, and it, usually like a Thursday night or something along those lines.
I cannot believe that this Friday high school football starts, man. Actually, I was talking to somebody. We were planning something and about Labor Day, because that's Labor Day weekend. That's when in the college football season,
Right.
when Indiana has their first game. And then someone pointed out, it's Mike Glasscut. I was talking to him yesterday, that would be the third week of the football season. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, what? They'll be 3 weeks in already. I'm like, that's nuts. So yeah, crazy. So high school football starting this week, man, that's nuts, but it's here and it's awesome.
Well, fall sports officially starts the 5th Monday of the school calendar, which is July. The first Monday of July is the start of the school calendar. So your fall practices will start somewhere really late July or early August. And then that gets you into 2 weeks. 2 weeks of practices. I mean, that's basically how the IHSAA scripts its season. Is each season gets 2 full weeks of practice before they play, and that's where we are. So,
you think schools here will ever be allowed to have spring football?
Oh, I mean, no. They look, the stuff that the one thing the IHSAA wants to do is encourage kids to play as many school sports as possible. So they're not going to do a whole lot that overlaps that. Where they, their rules do allow these school coaches, especially in the summer, to have way more contact with their guys in June and July. That helps. But then also these guys now, football's doing 7-on-7 stuff. High school coaches, I think, are getting football coaches are getting more involved and getting their players involved in the 7-on-7 stuff. Not unlike what a basketball coach might do to getting kids involved in AAU. And like anything, there's good situations and bad situations in that. So I don't think you'll see spring football just from the mere fact that the IHSA wants you to be playing baseball, or wants you to be running track, or wants you to be, maybe now as boys volleyball becomes a thing, that's going to start popping up more.
Ed jumping in says, hey, to us, appreciate you. Alan, he ran all weekend to see Army boy before he leaves. Oh man, that has to be a tough one. I wanted to get Ross up there. He said, I wanted to ask you a question. He hadn't seen anything about the Greyhound football team. I talking about old Carmel there.
Well,
man, how in the hell, first of all, how in the hell does the ISSA allow a school that has 16,000 students play against schools like my old one that has 1,800? How do they not have two high schools up there?
It's just one district. It's one township.
I know, but I mean, you've got
that's
many kids.
Yeah, but you got to think of it like this: as good
6,000 students, people, 6,000.
Not that many, but as good as the academics, as good as the academics are, and there's no reason to split it. And you look at the curriculum that they have. I mean, you've got schools like North Central, Ben Davis, Warren Central that have similar curriculum, and I'm talking about classes that some of us would never take. But it's just such a diverse offering, the breadth and width of Carmel's curriculum and any big school's curriculum. I mean, I've coached at small schools that basically just teach core classes, and they definitely have like, home ec and and wood shop and maybe
you still have those classes.
They do, yeah. Oh yeah, Carmel's got they have a vocational track. Yeah, they've got a vocational track for sure. It's impressive. It's also, just one of many different directions. Like I took a class called International Relations my senior year, when basically we spent the entire semester preparing for a mock trial in front of the Indiana. I can't remember if it was definitely a federal court. I don't think it was the Supreme Court, but we spent the entire semester. That's what we did. That's what that class was. There was only 8 of us in that class, and that's our senior year. I mean, you've got classes like that. I mean, it was a fun class. It was an immersive class. There was a lot of research in that class. I mean, it was basically trying to prepare you to be lawyers or politicians or whatever it was that some of those guys went on to be. Football wise, you know what? I know that guy asked that question. Which got you on the tangent. Usually I'm the Carmel tangent guy.
No.
I haven't been to a Carmel football game in 15 or 16 years. I tried to go. I know. I tried to go on my 30th class reunion. There was a bunch of them going. By the time I got there, the line was so ridiculously long. Just wasn't.
Don't you know anybody there? Don't you know anybody there? Get credentialed, something?
I pull all my favors into basketball, and I try very hard not to be too presumptuous. I've got kind of a place that I sit that may or may not have my name on it now, which is weird. But appreciate it.
Ross, I promise
football doesn't fall in.
We'll have Kyle Neddenrip on Wednesday, so we can ask Kyle about that, especially since it's starting this week. But more interesting there. But
you can be bad in the MIC and still be really good come tournament time. So Carmel has won a couple of state championships recently where they've had like 4 regular season losses. So those 8 teams just beat the heck out of each other. And in football, there's 6 classes, Jim. So it's not nearly as exaggerated as it is at basketball. But, the short answer to your question, we don't split the school here because there's no reason to. It's academically, it's great. And it's just one township. So
the Pacers are playing in Las Vegas. Today is their last game at 3:00. Did they not make the playoff?
No, it's a one deal. It's a 1-game deal. So there's one final that's between Boston and Sacramento. Everybody else has a consolation game, basically. So you basically in the tournament or in the league playing the team next to you in the standings is what it amounts to being.
which is today at 3:00 for the Pacers. So you can check them out. They've had a pretty good run, though.
I love Duarte. Love what he's going to bring.
He's played really well. He's jumped right in and seems like he's going to be a really good addition.
I think defensively, he's going to have to make some adjustments. I mean, he definitely shoots gaps. He's hunting that stuff, and I can see him getting burned. But even at 24, he's still a rookie, and he still has to learn coverages, and he still has to learn how to guard players who are always going to be options. But he's looked really good. I thought, really good.
I missed Ross bragging a little bit there. He's got 2 rings.
So he was on the 81 and 82 teams probably.
Man,
I remember those teams.
Well, I didn't get to play them, but we were losing to Columbus East, I think, that year.
Carmel wasn't that huge when they were winning those titles, that's for sure. Still a pretty moderately sized school.
Tim, are you saying that Jeffersonville has canceled their football season? Opener?
No, their season opener. Oh, I don't know. That's what it said.
Season opener. Are you saying they've already canceled their season opener for football? How do you make up a football game? I mean,
you just forfeit it. I think that's what's going to happen this year.
Man, an entire football team. They must be. That stinks. Still dealing with this stuff, man. This season is going to be a weird one still. So you're going to have games like that, and that could be college. That could happen that could quickly happen in a college basketball scenario.
It's just people. I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with it too.
People not taking care of what they're supposed to be taking care of, and making it into something that it's not. And this is what's going to happen. And they'll figure it out when they lose something that they care about. And I mean I don't mean in terms of death. I mean in terms of events. So things that you want to attend, you better make sure you take care of your business, because if not, it's going to spread like fire again, and things are going to get canceled and delayed or restricted as to who can watch it.
Absolutely. And you mentioned the advent of boys volleyball in the state of Indiana, which that has become a bigger and bigger thing in college. And Indiana has been some time been a volleyball state for girls. But that's going to be, I can see that being a quickly growing sport.
Yeah, it's.
Is it going to be in the fall?
No, it'll be in the spring.
Okay, so you can have basketball players.
As I understand it, it would be in the spring, and I think it's. I mean, there obviously is a natural translation. I think when you're gonna see it most is when it starts springing up in youth sports, because by the time these guys get to high school, look, there does come a point, especially in bigger schools, where you do have to specialize to stay competitive. And while nobody is going to outright tell a kid to give up a sport, especially at the high school level, because school coaches, because athletics directors wouldn't like it. The reality is they compete for scholarships with other players that put in work year round. And, I don't know what the volleyball situation holds. And I know as good as we think some of these teams are in Indiana, from a girls volleyball perspective, I have no clue how good they are compared to the rest of the country. No clue to know if that's, to know if that's something that translates into big time college scholarship opportunities. I mean, I know what girls basketball translates to, because you see that on a national stage. And maybe I just don't know enough about volleyball. I mean, I don't know enough about volleyball players to know who's competing nationally, but there's just so much money in boys basketball. I would strongly discourage somebody from turning away from that sport if they're tall and athletic.
My brother Betty Pete says men's volleyball at high school is becoming a big sport in Minnesota, still at club level, lost out to women's football. What? Lost out to women's football to becoming a high school varsity sport next season? Are you kidding me? What the hell are they drinking in the water up there, my brother? That's great. Wow.
And volleyball at the boys level is not a varsity sport. It's not an IHSA sponsored sport yet. So,
Okay, I really don't. Not that I'm trying to keep women from getting any opportunities, but I can't imagine that many women wanting to play football, knowing how many people it takes to stock a football program. How in the world
if they play it the same?
7-on-7, maybe?
Could be. Yeah, I have no idea.
5,000 students enrolled at Carmel, my friend. Not 6. I said 6.
That number looks low. I think it's closer to 54. But Ken probably looked it up. But
tough. He said
girls are tough in Minnesota.
Yeah, it's cool. All right. It's cold as hell. Great. It's a great sport. I see it's perfect for men's volleyball. I mean, indoor sport. Yeah, but up there, but yeah, we'll see. Looking forward to that because it's the Big Ten, and the Big Ten, as far as colleges go, the sport for volleyball in the country, in collegiate volleyball, just dominate, and which shocked me when I found that out. I would assume that would have been the West Coast schools, USC, UCLA, or Florida, and all those kinds of. But man, the Big Ten is a badass in women's volleyball.
That I knew only because I coached a kid whose sister played. That's the extent of my volley. She's now the head girls coach the volleyball coach at Brownsburg, I think. But her brother was a heck of a basketball player, and that's the only reason why I know anything about volleyball. If it was that just from that time period. So, and obviously it's big in Muncie area, big in the Muncie area.
Senor Ache's got friends in high places who are in the know, man. There you go. Yeah, we're going to get back to talking about basketball. Don't worry about that, because in the next segment, that's exactly what we'll be talking about. We'll talk about the trip to the Bahamas, who did what. Zach Osterman is going to join us later in the show, and we've got plenty more to talk about. So we'll be back to do that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for a relax.
What is the weather like today? 72, since I'm not moving?
72 and sunny in Carmel every day.
Wow.
As you go around the roundabouts.
John, you should just come up. We just closed the dome.
Oh, yeah?
Let's in sunlight, and that's about it.
Close what dome?
I don't know. The dome over Carmel. The dome, the dome over the biosphere.
That's what Carmel was probably the place where they filmed that show. I can't even remember the name of it anymore.
That's what I'm trying to get up right now.
Was it called Under the Dome?
No, it's Jim Carrey movie.
No, not a movie. I'm thinking of a TV show.
That was the Truman Show.
I'm thinking about the Truman Show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Carmel.
Idyllic.
That's it, man.
I live in you. I was to say you moved this week, and I haven't moved since 1999.
Yeah,
I bought this place, and I've been here ever since. It's so much has changed. I love it. So much more to do now than there used to be.
In the kingdom of Carmel.
That's right. Ever since they changed the smoking laws, we've got all kind of good places to eat. And even though I'm not a big beer guy, I don't drink beer. The microbrews that we have here, what that means for me is they just have a lot of bands. There's a lot of live music in Carmel. So
Jim's made fun of me for liking hard seltzers. He says I'm a woman.
Yeah, you wouldn't get too far around here without getting made fun of, but
I say a lot of people, I don't know if it's just a Kentucky thing, but a lot of people drink them down here, young and old.
Well, they do. They just get, I don't know. It's a lot of, we're living in
Let's ask Ross Bunnell. He's down in Somerset, Kentucky. I bet he doesn't drink seltzers, but maybe he can.
I guarantee he does not drink.
He probably doesn't. That's not like I'm in close to Louisville. It's more of it's more suburban where I'm at. It's not country Kentucky like most of Kentucky.
He can't get out of the roundabouts. He said.
Ross, right is still right, left is still left, straight is still
Here we
straight.
go. This isn't Ross, but it's somebody. I hate bourbon. I've only tried it once, though. I tried Elijah Craig.
Yeah, I'm not a big bourbon drinker. I mean, anything I mix with Diet Coke, I'm good.
All right, we got to come back in.
For a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back on this Monday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming with you. Jim Reamer with us, as he always is. Basketball over the weekend for Indiana. We did a post-game show with Todd Leary last night, and my expectations going into that for Indiana was if they got beat, I wasn't going to be shocked. I wouldn't have been surprised at all because of not playing together as long as that team. They're thought maybe they could have some guys that were a little handier, but the results, I think if you're an Indiana fan or an Indiana coach, and I can't speak for the coaches, but you got to be pretty happy with how they played, with what they did, the game results. They were never in doubt. They led. They just did the right things. They played really good defense. A lot of different guys contributed in the different games in different ways. So there were a ton of positives. I know there's other things that they need to do and they'll go back and work on, but there were just so many positives, Jim. And as you answer, I'm still listening, but I got to step away to grab my phone. So I'm still listening though.
Well, I think the one takeaway that I came away with was that the defensive energy was what seemed to impress most people. I mean, there was a couple of guys that I talked to on a somewhat regular basis about basketball that were there, and they really loved the defensive energy that Indiana played with. Now, not that there's not going to be mistakes, and not that they've got everything solved, but it's just a different energy than what it's been the last few years. And look, a lot of that's defensive philosophy, pack line. You know, sometimes it can look like guys are just sort of standing around, and standing around is probably too harsh, but it's not the same in the gaps, in your face, pressure all over the court that you can get when you don't force players to stay within a 15-foot arc of the basket. The other thing that I liked, it was, again, from just based on what I've read and in some of the clips that I've seen, it looks like there's a lot more effort or a lot more emphasis put on getting downhill, getting to the paint. I saw a really nice move where Parker Stewart gets in the paint, stops and pivots. And as much as I'm a 1-foot finish guy, it's still nice to have a guy strong enough to get his body under control and finish through contact, or even just finish around contact. It just seemed like, not to pick on guys who aren't there, but it just seemed like last year, a couple of IU's more reliable perimeter scorers were more looking to get contact and just throw stuff at the rim. And just, it was wholly unreliable. They wouldn't get the call and they just looked bad doing it. And this year, this team looks a little tougher, just in terms of on some of the finishing that we've seen on video, because obviously the video is all makes, but it's still nice to see that type of footwork, that type of initiation of contact, and seeing guys who are under control with their bodies. And you know, look, it's 2 good wins over a team we don't know much about, but it seems like they're the middle of a road team of a middle of a road to maybe a little bit below average European league. But at the same time, if Indiana was pulling 2 victories over, you know, middle of the road Ohio Valley teams, middle of the road MAC teams, I think they'd feel pretty good about starting the season with the way they're playing. So,
yeah, defense definitely stood out. I mean, you've got a team that has a very high draft prospect on it.
Yeah.
Jovic, and as So Wyatt pointed out years ago, they held in the first game, they held him to 0 of 1 shooting, 5 turnovers. Second game, 2 of 9 for 8 points. I mean, that's pretty damn good. Was probably coming into this game the best player supposedly on the court.
Talent.
There was a
talent,
lot.
Maybe the best talent. Yeah, I mean,
Was supposed to be at least. Was supposedly thought of that at least. But defensively, that's a heck of a job, man.
yeah, it's hard to get too deep into it without seeing it, though. That's the only problem.
Right.
I was impressed with. I was pleased that Cup or Miller Kopp was able to. I keep wanting to call him Cooper Cup. That's not the same guy.
Man.
That Miller Kopp, the starting at the 3. You know, that puts Indiana in a position where you can still be a little bit undersized, but still not be small. Because with Kopp at the 3, what is he, 6'7", 6'8"? They're no longer playing undersized at every single position. Parker Stewart is 6'5" and long and strong. I mean, they've got size and strength at every position. The only place they're really undersized is center, and that's Trace, you know, or Race, or however you want to, you know, however those pieces fit together. But they have size at every other position, and that's a big deal. Positional size is very much important, almost more important than having that big true stud center that a lot of teams crave. I'd rather have 2 6'8", 6'9" forwards up front with bigger wings than I would smaller wings and one big guy back there.
And talking about Trace Jackson Davis, I commented on something yesterday that while, yes, he needs to develop his shot, he needs to develop his offhand, developing that shot is more important to him and his future than it is to this basketball team now. Last year, that was a different story. I would have not have said that. This year, different story. This team doesn't need him to be a guy that can go out there and hit all those shots. Actually, they can need him to be better at what he's been doing, because now they have guys that can hit shots. They have guys that can drive to the rim. They have guys that can drive and kick. There's so many different options now that they did not have before. And yes, while again, he needs that for his NBA career, that's not what this Indiana team needs, I think. So, and I don't think he's going to become this great shooter over the next couple of months. It's going to take a while. That doesn't just happen if you don't have it. But I think that he can be a bigger force underneath this year than he was last year even.
A lot of it is also, if I'm understanding what they're going to do offensively, they're going to run a lot of offense through their bigs facing the basket, which, obviously ball screen stuff and get short roll catches and also be in dribble handoff situations. And that is going to require him to be an option out there, because all that'll do is if he's not able to hit that shot, because I think there was one highlight where he did basically shoot a mid-range jump shot off of a handoff that he kept.
I think he took a couple.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big part of the offense, because you get in situations where teams can just go underneath him, especially on handoffs, and don't have to respect his shooting. That is going to allow his man to sink more into the paint and jam up curls and jam up back cuts and things like that. But now if he has to hit that shot, that's anytime you get a guy that can create more space, it's better for the offense. I mean, I understand your point, but I still think it's not as important for him to score. It's not as important for him to score big like he had to last year, but he still has to have that skill set, because I think the way they're going to use him and Race, and Race starting the game with was it a trail 3?
It was a 3.
I mean, that's a trail big 3. That's very
really
common.
Big.
Yeah, that's very common in today's game.
But I think he's closer to hitting that shot than Trace is. I think he's closer to being a better shooter than Trace is.
And in fairness to Miller and the previous staff, they were trending him that way anyway. I mean, just because his shot mechanics look a lot better. But look, there was a lot of stuff last year too about Trace could do some things in practice and would do some things in practice that he just doesn't seem to have confidence to do in a game. So, a lot of that confidence leads into fluidity, from the time how you catch the ball to how you get it into your shooting pocket and how you get it into your where you're going to drive off of. It's just a matter of Trace being willing to do it in games and being willing to fail. It's almost like it's not as protracted, but it's not unlike the same conversation people have about Ben Simmons for the 76ers, where you have all this video of him out there hitting shots and all this video of him driving and the way he changes his games when the playoff comes. It's a level of confidence that he's just not comfortable with, and that's what Trace has to battle as well.
We did not get to see Logan Duncombe and Michael Durr, which I'm wondering how much help that's going to be, having two more bigs. That's two bigs they did not have last year. Of course, both of these guys are freshmen, but we know they're both talented. But again, they're both freshmen, so it's going to be interesting to see how much they can contribute, especially Michael Durr. Well, both of them, really, because they're both really good athletes and really good footwork. And so it's going to be interesting to see what they can add to this as well.
Well, it's just it's versatility. It's rotation versatility. It's the ability to go big, and it's the ability. I mean, it's not like Indiana's not going to they're probably going to continue to start Race and Trace. I mean, Trace is obviously going to start, but they're probably going to continue to start Race. Could there be some situations where they don't want Trace on the other team's big guy to start the game, and they might start Michael Durr? Sure. But what Durr gives them is flexibility. What Durr also gives them is a big and able body in practice to compete against, and that will help the other guys in games, and not just the big guys, but it help the littles finish in practice. You know, if they get a chance to finish over a big, capable body like that in practice, then they'll get to do it in games, because there's only so much you can simulate. You don't actually have the physical structure or stature out there on the court to emulate it. So.
Jason joining us off of Facebook. It's team well put together. We have a little bit of everything: quickness, shooting, rebounding, and team chemistry. Very interesting. I did find the ability to get the chemistry together that quickly. Again, going off of, I didn't see it, but from listening and putting it all together, they seemed more cohesive than I expected them to be at this point with all the new faces.
Some of it too is rallying together. I mean, they've been kind of beaten up the last couple of years. You know, maybe they've not exceeded or not met their expectations. And there's only so much of that crap you can take. And there's only so much of that crap that you can take, even when it's being said about somebody else on your team. So at this point, they're just standing up for each other. And if they're having fun while doing it because they like the disposition of this current staff a little bit differently, if they like the style of play better, you know, basketball becomes a really fun game, you know, when you're out there, even though you're out there working your butt off and oftentimes getting your butt chewed by one of your coaches.
Yeah, I mistakenly earlier said that Michael Durr was a freshman. He's new to the fold, but he's not a freshman. He's actually a senior. So that really makes it intriguing on what he can do. That's a guy. There's no reason to think he can't get a lot of minutes.
All right. Well, they missed Brunk last year. And again,
and Michael Durr is a lot better than Brunk, I think. He's just not he doesn't bring the poundage, but
no, but anytime you've got that I go back to versatility. I don't want to completely repeat what I just said, but it also, in terms of just rest and being able to, you know, maybe one game Trace doesn't have to play 34, 35 minutes or whatever it is. Maybe there's a game where he, you know, maybe there's a game where Trace struggles and Indiana still is able to have a really good inside presence. I think that's what Brunk could have brought to Indiana last year, a healthy Brunk, and that's what a healthy Durr will bring this year. And it'll be nice if Duncan can be an option too. I mean, he's a little bit better than what Brunk was as a freshman. He's definitely very similar in build as what Brunk was as a freshman, very similar in the paint, more skilled than what Joey was at that age. So to me, that's the difference between those two guys. As Duncan matures through Indiana's program, you know, you're going to see a versatile big guy that probably is going to play a little bit more like Race or Race Thompson than Jackson Davis.
Yeah, and that's going to be, again, add a little bit more to this. Yep. And the expectations for fans, I know, is going to continue to – after this weekend, I'm sure the expectations from the fans is just starting to really climb, which while I think there's nothing but a lot of positives coming out of that weekend, you got to temper everything. I no idea what the Big Ten lies in store, but this team's going to be good. They're going to be more than competitive. We've seen that. Just how they play, I think that you shouldn't. Again, I got to get away from saying seen, but think that they're going to be able to play with about most teams. And this is August. They've got 7 months to be together. 7 months out in front of them. So it just looks really, really positive, barring injuries and sorts of things like that.
Well, look, 2 more wins last year, and they probably make the tournament, right? I mean, so you're looking at if that happens, I think people will be pleased. And then, but you're talking about, well, are they that much better? Then, well, the answer is, well, here's where maybe the rubber hits the road. They're maybe playing faster. Maybe they're more fun to watch. They're playing with more defensive energy and more potential to be, the smothering defenses that some of us remember. That those the really good Indiana teams were smothering defenses. They had athletes that could get after you. They had skilled players who could play multiple positions. Knight had a lot of flexibility. Even Davis's Final Four team, just a tremendous defensive team, a physical team that didn't take a lot of crap on the court. And, and even that was a team that was undersized. But if they can play with more energy on the defensive end of the floor and they can play with a little bit faster, people will enjoy the product more. And then if they can pull out at least 2 or 3 more wins, they'll think it's exponentially better. And, the reality is it's just a change in style and a gradual improvement, because I think most teams do tend to improve gradually. And I would be pleased with that if they're more fun to watch.
Football practice is going on right now. Tim points out 19 days till football kickoff, I think he meant to say.
Tip off. Yeah.
So you got that going. I can't wait for that. Ross is, although he saw a clip I saw looked like Durr had a noticeable limp. Hope he gets healthy. They're not going to let anything out like that. But, and then Tim talked about the new transfer, Haynes, the DB, making an impact in practice. Yeah, and I'm not going to make it out to practice today. I hate that, but I'm going to take today off from that. It's coming up in our next segment. Let's see, Zach Osterman will join us, and we'll hear from Todd Leary on yesterday as well. What do you have coming up the rest of the week?
Still nothing.
Nothing. I knew it. I knew it.
This is
retirement life, man.
I'm working.
Banker's hires.
Yeah, nothing that will contribute. Nothing that will contribute to the show next Monday, other than just kind of riff on what you guys are already talking about when I get in here. So if I can find something to watch, I may go watch it. But really, a lot of it's going to be catching some of the other summer league games that I've missed throughout the last week on ESPN. So,
well, if anybody is looking for something to do on Friday, that is the 20th, correct? Make sure I have this date. I am playing in a golf scramble at the Links at Heartland Crossing Golf Course. I think that's on the southwest side of Indianapolis. They're still looking for some things. If you guys want to play, it's only $75 a person, $300 for the team. And then you got all the stuff you can get. I don't know. Let's see. Sponsorship opportunities. I don't know who it even benefits. Here it is. The Realtor Association is putting it on. I can't find their benefactor, but it's a good one. I promise you. That's why I'm going up there. But Cheryl Sizemore is putting that on. So if you guys are looking for, hey, you go. If you're looking for something to do on Friday, because I'm going to be playing there. Bob Kravitz is playing. So we're going to head up there. It starts at, I'll post this after a while. Didn't plan on reading this just yet, but I'm going to have to post this, or Cheryl can post it real quick. She's on there right now. I'm looking for it. I think it starts at 11 with a shotgun start, or 12. It starts at noon. Are you a golfer?
No, not as much as I used to be, but it's tough to spend 6 hours on the course when you don't.
6 hours? What the hell are you doing?
It's about 3 hours per 9 holes, isn't it?
No,
it's
terrible.
Not. Oh, okay.
No.
Well, maybe.
Man, that's.
I used to be pretty good, but not. I haven't played in probably 6 years.
If you were taking 6 hours to play, you weren't pretty good.
4 hours, maybe. Is that what I'm?
Yes. That's,
Okay, there you go. All right.
Yeah, of course, other factors can stretch that out. Slow players out there drives you nuts. So,
that may be part of it. So,
I'll post this so everybody can. Oh, there it is. It's on the golf balls. 11 a.m. registration, 11 a.m. box lunch, and a noon shotgun start. The links at Heartland Crossing Golf Course. That is this Friday. Masks required in the clubhouse, but not required on the tee box. That's all that matters. All kinds of things. I'll get this posted out again, but I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to doing something besides moving. I just tell you that. Try to move a golf ball. I don't care if it moves 20 yards. I'm not complaining about a shot Friday. I promise you. Well, Jimbo, I thank you enough, brother. I appreciate you so much. I always look forward to it, and we'll do it again next week.
We'll do.
Thank you, sir. Have a great week. The great Jim Reamer joining us, talking about all things basketball, and we got more coming up as we'll hear from Todd Leary, and Zach Osterman is going to join us from the Bahamas. Coming up next here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans. Thank you, sir.
Yep. I wish I had something clever to leave for Zach. I usually just make fun of him for liking Atlanta.
Yeah, well, I haven't checked the standings yet. I need to do that. That East is going nuts over there.
We're looking for lost ball. You know what? It's been so long since I've golfed. I forget how long it takes. I grew up on a apartment golf course in Carmel. You could play for free if you were a kid. Played a lot of golf. And then spent a lot of time golfing at Brookshire and then Plum Creek. So those are my 2 courses. Just haven't done it a lot lately.
Yeah, I don't look for golf balls, and I'll tell you exactly why. Because I made the great purchase last year off of Facebook Marketplace of 1,600 golf balls from a guy who was selling. He was in Martinsville, and I'm like, what? And so I went up there. I cost, you still got those? It was $60. I said, you still got those? Yeah. I said, I'm on my way. I went up, picked those 1,600 golf balls up. He had them in like 26 double deal Kroger bags.
Nice.
And I've got duffel bags still stuffed with golf balls that I'm planning on having for the next 5 years. And I don't even look for golf balls. I'm like, screw that. Zach, how are you, brother?
Hey, how we doing?
We're alive. Man.
There's not enough room for both of us on here. I got to get out of here.
All right, buddy. I'll see you, Jim. Thanks, man.
Hey, Zach, I'll see you, bud.
Sounds good. We'll see you down the road.
Bye.
Yeah. How's it going? How's the trip?
It's good. It's good. I'm here through the afternoon, so I'll fly home tonight.
Yeah. Well, I wish I would have been down there. Especially instead of what I was doing, moving. They seem to look pretty good from stats and reports and all that. I know that always room for improvement, and fans are probably going to have high hopes, but it seems like they have reason to this year.
Yeah. No, I mean, they look better than I thought they would. I think they may have looked better than they thought they would. So, but I mean, they'll never freely say that, but that's the sense I got.
Oh, man, what else is going on with you?
I mean, that's pretty much it. Until I get back, it's all been kind of gearing up for this trip. So waiting to get home.
Yep.
All right. I was going to go ahead and bring us back in unless you have something quick to say, Jim. Okay, cool.
In Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday. Hope your week is starting out well. We've got Zach Osterman to make it go better from the Indy Star, brought to you by Yogi. Zach, how is it going down in the Bahamas, man?
Yeah, it's sunny and warm.
It's nice here finally. Back down into the 70s. It was hot as Hades last week, but yeah, it's back down nice here as well. But more importantly, a great trip for the Indiana basketball program as they get 2 wins over BC Mega. More importantly, they played well. They came together, and I didn't know what to expect going into it because I didn't know a lot about BC Mega other than what you read and all that, knowing who had gone through their program. But being a pro team that's together, I thought it was going to be kind of a formidable challenge for a team like Indiana, who is a patchwork team of new faces. But man, they seem like they are together, and with 7 months to look out, a lot of reason for optimism for this basketball program.
I think that's fair. I mean, obviously there was so much that you felt like you didn't know about Indiana, what they were going to look like, what to expect. Without wanting to put words in anybody's mouth, I think you maybe wondered if Indiana didn't quite know what to expect. I mean, Race Thompson, he was kind of talking specifically about Indiana's offense and where it was, but he kind of said something similar yesterday where he just said, well, we've only been going up against ourselves. And Tamar Bates said something similar before either of the games too. We've only been going up against ourselves for 2 months. It's at a certain point you start to know what the calls are. You start to know what the what guys' tendencies are, and you just don't know if it's the firm enough test you need, essentially. And I think that from Indiana's perspective, this was a good opponent to play. BC Mega comes over here a lot, is my understanding. I think Kentucky smacked them around a few years ago. I think they actually played maybe a 1 or 2 possession game with Texas Tech here a couple years ago. They're a talented team. They got an all-Atlantic 10-point guard who you would presume is probably better than he was in college, and Scoochie Smith. They've got a kid, Nikola Jovic, that some people think is going to be a first-round pick in the NBA draft. And Friday night was probably a little bit more in Indiana's favor because Mega had basically nothing to study, from the perspective. I mean, I don't think you can even necessarily look at Mike Woodson's time as a head coach in the NBA because it's how do you match that up to the personnel Indiana has when half their team is new. But it was for that reason that I actually kind of thought Sunday was more encouraging. One of the reasons why I thought Sunday was more encouraging because I thought Mega really did adjust very well to some of what Indiana was doing at both ends of the floor, and Indiana still won by double digits. And so, listen, it's all the usual caveats. It's August. None of this is going to win any games in November and December, or at least it's not going to count as wins in November and December. But I don't know that I was the only one that was surprised at how good Indiana looked out here.
Tony asked, did the IU offense look like they were utilizing more spacing? Getting technical questions today.
I mean, yes, at least to some degree. Now they shot 6 of 20 from 3 in their second game, and I'll pull the box scores out. I probably should have had them handy anyway. They shot 6 of 20 from 3 in their second game. They only shot 13 of 38 the entire trip, so they weren't lighting it on fire. It is worth saying in that second game in particular, Miller Kopp hit a 3 and then almost immediately after went out with an ankle injury that Mike Woodson, needless to say, did not think was very severe. And then they played the whole trip without Anthony Leal, who I believe has been kind of in concussion protocol. And so those are 2 of the players that Indiana is probably going to be looking to be sort of their most prolific volume spot shooters. And, Kopp looked the part Friday night, went 3 of 4 from behind the arc. Obviously, he only played 3 minutes on Sunday before he got knocked out. So you kind of caveat the 3-point performance by pointing out that a couple of Indiana's best 3-point shooters really weren't able to impact the whole trip. But I think they were trying, certainly, to space the floor better. That doesn't mean all the shots were necessarily going down.
Yeah, but just having a Miller Kopp, someone that not only can hit that shot, but who has experience. When he got hurt and he's on the bench, he's still in the game. He's active, experience, that leadership. That's again, that's things that this team didn't have last year.
Yeah, I mean, and I think too, it's also worth saying the season doesn't start tomorrow, and so a player like Tamar Bates will probably be a slightly better shooter, slightly more consistent shooter by November. To be honest with you, I think Jordan Geronimo, I don't think he's going to be a volume 3-point shooter. I think he was 2 or 3 from behind the arc on the trip, but he's very much. When I say this, I'm not saying he's going to be a first-round pick. I want to be clear, but he very much reminds me of kind of the path that OG Anunoby was on, just maybe a little bit a year later in terms of high-energy guy on defense, can guard multiple positions. Across the 2 games, 17 rebounds. But then it's not just that he made a couple threes offensively; it's that he was finding the right spaces and he was catching the ball in the right areas. To give himself good shooting windows. And so I don't think you're going to be looking at him as a volume 3-point shooter, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get to the end of the season and he's attempted, 50 threes and he's made 37% of them, something like that. So I don't think that, this is not going to be a bombs away team offensively. And it's not built that way. It's not even necessarily again, without wanting to draw sweeping conclusions from very, brief windows, it's not even necessarily a team that I think wants to be, everybody's out around the perimeter shooting a bunch of threes. What I think it wants is the threat of that. And you have to have a couple volume shooters there. Again, Leo Kopp, guys that you're probably going to look to. But, if you also have a Jordan Geronimo who defenses feel like they can't sag off of, even if he's not necessarily going to take 7 threes a game, if defenses feel like they've got to follow him all the way to the perimeter, there's a driving lane. If Race Thompson, who hit 1 3 yesterday, can even be a 33, 34% 3-point shooter, then defenses are going to feel like they can't leave him free on the perimeter. And there's a driving lane. And for a team that's got a lot of point guard depth and a lot of point guard talent, and obviously, of course, a really good big in Trace Jackson Davis, you don't necessarily need, 4 guys shooting 45% from 3. You need 2 or 3 that can be volume 3-point shooters, and then 2 or 3 more that opponents know they can't leave alone and they can't leave open because they could knock down, 2, 3, 4 in a pinch.
Yeah, that analogy between Geronimo and OG is perfect. Rangy guys with the wingspan, defensive specialists, and just knocking those threes down. It is just a bonus. But I talked about him. He's going to be just a blue collar kind of Mr. Everything. His stats are not highly on the point side, but like you said, those other ones, man, those rebounds, that's a lot of extra. Because how many of those rebounds were offensive rebounds? I think quite a bit of them when he pulled the 10 down weren't 8 of those offensive. Was it that many?
I don't have it was that many. 6 of his 7 on Sunday were were defensive. It was 5 and 5 it was a split Friday night.
That's pretty good. That's extra 5 possessions right there. So
right.
What a bonus that's going to be for this offensive team, for the offensive side of things.
And it also, if it's something sustainable, obviously Indiana should be deeper if it can get healthy in the post again. Michael Duran, Logan Duncombe didn't play on this trip. You didn't get the sense that these were, massive long-term injuries, but certainly ones that Indiana didn't feel like it was worth risking guys here. But I'm always sort of bemused at people that don't look at rebounding as a function of offense or defense. And what I mean by that is I don't understand people who point to a team that plays great half-court defense but then can't rebound the ball. If you can't rebound, you're not playing defense because the possession doesn't end. So if you don't rebound, then the possession is just then you haven't defended because you haven't ended the possession. And if you can rebound offensively, to your point, you can afford to be a little bit less efficient in your shooting numbers because you're going to create more chances. And if you can suddenly rebound, suddenly you've got somebody that you can plug into the 4 and play small that can rebound like a true 4. Well, that's great. Or if you want to play big, you've got somebody you can plug into the 3. Even if you even want to go crazy with it, and I doubt we'll see a lot of this, but you could, in theory, put Miller Kopp at the 2. Suddenly you're playing huge, but your 2 and your 3 are both probably 3-point threats. and then you can rebound really, really, really well, at least in theory. And so it's, this team is just what you're looking for, I think, is what kind of sense of itself does this team have? What sense of roles do guys have? And I think Jordan Geronimo was a really good example of a player that is clearly very comfortable understanding what I do to impact this team's success is X. And as long as I do X, as long as that's my baseline, everything after that is a bonus. And I think that it felt like there was more of that from this group. I'd look at a player like Rob Finney, who,
yes, but he was my next example.
He only played 12 minutes on Friday night, and it felt like twice that much, frankly, because of, and he only shot, I think, 1 of 6 from the floor, but it still felt at both ends of the floor like he was more impactful. And that's usually, at least in my experience, sort of indicative of guys embracing their roles and embracing their, embracing just their, whatever it is that is kind of the best version of themselves to impact what their team is trying to get done. And while I think Indiana's still got a lot of work to do, particularly at the offensive end, I think it's got to be encouraging if you're an IU fan that this team does seem confident, not just confident in itself, but confident in its understanding of what is going to win games under Mike Woodson and Mike Woodson's system and scheme and principles and methods. I think that's what should be encouraging.
Absolutely. Yeah. Rob Finney was when you started talking about that roles, I had been talking about, it looks to me that Rob Finney's role has been more clearly defined and it's been made more manageable for him, and which gives him a much better, very efficient role on the team, as you pointed out. And again, that makes this team better. Tamar Bates, the dude's going to be a stud. I don't want to talk about starting and not starting, but I don't know how they're going to keep him out of the starting lineup as the season gets nearer, because this kid, I think he probably has potentially the most pro potential on this team right now. I haven't seen him, so that's a big thing to say, but he just, from all accounts, he seems like he's carrying himself very well early in the year.
No, I think that's fair. He was first off the bench yesterday, replacing Miller Cobb. He was, I think, plus 13 for the trip, which I believe was best among non-starters. You're in your plus minus, like I think Trace Jackson Davis might have been number 1. Race Thompson was up there. Xavier Johnson was up there. He had foul trouble on Friday night and didn't play as much. But Bates is, I don't think you're the only one that was really interested in kind of what he looked like coming into this. And across 2 games, I'm looking at his line here, 23 points, 8 rebounds. I don't think he turned the ball over. I think he might have had 1 turnover, 8 of 15 from the floor, 9 points and 6 rebounds yesterday. We saw him bringing the ball up the floor. Purposefully bringing it up the floor. Like the ball would get inbounded to a point guard and he would throw it to Tamar Bates to bring the ball up the floor. And we heard him talking a little bit about, wanting to work on his point guard skills more and those sorts of things. I think, I don't, without wanting to sort of presuppose whatever path Mike Woodson envisions for him developmentally, I think he's a player that, whether he starts or comes off the bench, is going to fit into a lot of different holes for Indiana. He's going to fill a lot of different different roles, I guess. He's rangy, he's athletic. His rebounding numbers, they weren't cheap rebounds. He was defending players bigger than him. A lot of these guys were, but for a freshman, this is his first sort of true college action. And that's, he's defending guys that are 2, 3, 4 inches taller, that probably have some weight on him as well. I thought he was encouraging. I thought he was probably one of the more encouraging players on the trip. Him and Geronimo are probably the 2. People are excited about Miller Kopp, and I don't blame them. But him and Geronimo are probably the 2, especially in terms of maybe less known quantities coming out of this trip, that I think may have I don't know if this is the right phrase, but you know what I mean, risen their stock the most.
And we just finished talking about Rob Finney and his role, and then Tony pointed out between Xavier and Rob yesterday, 13 of Indiana's 16 assists came from those two guys. Your starting point guard, your off the bench point guard. That's not a number that you're going to see every game, but that's a hell of a number to get 7 and 6 from two guys. I mean, that is, if you get that every game, you're going to be winning a ton of games. Again, that's not going to happen a lot, but that's a robust number.
I just thought in general, Indiana's balance in terms of, they had 13 assists in both games, 26 assists on 53 made baskets. That number could probably be a little higher, frankly, but and this was sort of reflective of more widely the way Indiana adjusted between the two games. They committed 12 turnovers on the Friday night in what was a much more sort of fast-paced, high possession, up and down game, because they also forced 27 turnovers, and a lot of that was Mega. I mean, Mega was really sloppy on Friday night. Like, I would bet at least 5 or 6 of those 27 turnovers actually came straight after IU turnovers. Like Mega would turn IU over, then look for a skip pass or an outlet pass and throw it right to an Indiana player retreating in transition. But Mega comes back on the Sunday and commits only 12 turnovers. It's a much more, slow-footed game. Nobody's shooting the ball well. Indiana shot 35%. Mega shot 32% from the floor. And Indiana only commits 5 turnovers. And, I think that one of the things that this team, frankly, really lacked in the last couple of years, even the team 2 years ago that was going to the NCAA tournament before it was canceled, was the ability to react and to adapt to different kinds of games, to be able to win a defensive struggle if shots weren't going in, to be able to really pick up the pace if the game was accelerating and opening those kinds of opportunities, to consistently embrace transition opportunities when they were on the table. And so much of that, to your point, starts with a point guard and starts with the ability to get the ball in, the ability of the team to get the ball in the guy's hands, and that guy's ability to get out in the open floor and not just, and I say this all the time, it's not just scoring off your break. Sometimes it's scoring off your secondary break. Sometimes it's getting down the floor so fast that you put your opponent in a couple different bad matchups around the floor and then finding one of those and exploiting it with a quick half-court attack of some kind. And I just, this, one of the things that I think was made clear from this was that this team, this trip, was that this team is going to have enviable depth in terms of who can handle the ball. Christian Lander didn't even play that much and still had, and was, I think, still something like 4 of 5 from the floor,
and reading my notes, man. As soon as I write something down, you start talking about it
and just getting to the rim, like, with impunity, frankly. Rob Finney is what he is. I think he's more assertive and confident than what we saw a lot of last season. Xavier Johnson, he's only 4 of 15 yesterday in the Sunday game, but he also did very much look like the sort of player Indiana has missed in terms of his ability to get on the ball and create his own shot. Like, that is something Indiana's really needed in the last few years, and is something that, quite frankly, they didn't have last year. Maybe a couple years ago with Devontae Green, certainly the year before that with Romeo Langford to some extent. But you back Xavier Johnson to make a few more of those most nights, and then you've got kind of Lander behind both of those guys. And then you talk about maybe running some sets where the ball goes through Tamar Bates, or running some sets where the ball goes through if you want to put it in the bigger players' hands, if that makes sense. We saw a lot of kind of Indiana not necessarily having Trace Jackson Davis bring the ball up the floor, but basically Jackson Davis come to the high post, take the ball, and let the action develop around him in a very, very sort of NBA, NBA familiar kind of way. This team is just, it's not going to struggle for entry points into its offense, and it's not going to struggle for guys that can get the ball around the floor to where it needs to go.
Your biggest take overall? I mean, I know it's early. It's the team mix-up didn't have some of the guys. Now we've got until November 9th when people will get another chance to see this team in game action. So nearly 2.5 months or so. So they've got a lot of time to prepare between then and now and then. What's your biggest takeaway from this weekend, Zach?
I think my biggest one is kind of sort of what I said earlier, and I know it's a bit conceptual, forgive me, but just the sense that this team really feels confident in itself, feels confident in what its coach is asking. It's not surprising that there's things it still can't do. I don't think it's going to be surprising if this team still isn't a great 3-point shooting team this year. But it's certainly a deeper team. It's a more versatile team, like in the sense that you feel like because of some of the guys they've added, and then also some of the ways that the guys that have stayed have improved. You don't feel like necessarily when you bring a guy off the bench, he can only do one or two things for you, and suddenly your lineup becomes you look at a lineup and say, well, he's a liability on defense, or he can't score, or you play this lineup, you're not going to be able to rebound the ball, that kind of thing. I think Indiana's going to be a lot more versatile and multi-purpose than that. But the big thing for me is just like how together everyone looked in terms of being confident in what they were being asked by the coaching staff, and at least being confident enough to say, this is my role. This is how I impact winning. This is how I make us better. And that's where, and kind of like that's, I'm going to embrace that. That's where I start. And then I'll go on from there. I think there's still a lot to sort through with this group, as you'd expect, but just to be frank, looking at acknowledging I wasn't exactly an expert on BC Mega before this trip. When I was looking at this trip, I was not at all convinced that Indiana was going to win both games. I wasn't even completely convinced Indiana was going to win one game. And to win both by double digits, and frankly, I mean, neither one was really that close. Indiana trailed for, I think, 36 seconds on Friday night and didn't trail at all on Sunday. I think that speaks volumes, frankly.
I agree with you, and I think the fans do too. Wyatt says the same thing. One last question, which is actually a good question. Pete says, will these two games help any of the top recruits still looking? And that brings up to mind Shafino, who just announced the Final Five, and his date coming up on the 24th would be another great get for Indiana. But I don't know that no one saw these games, so I don't know how it would help in recruiting.
I'm sure Indiana has film. And can use it as a tool to sort of lay out to kids like, hey, we've been talking to you conceptually about this is the way we'll use you, and maybe we've been showing you some film of Coach Woodson's teams in the NBA or whatever. Well, here is film of an Indiana team running his stuff. This is what we're talking about. This is kind of your first chance to put that sort of film in front of a player. In the way you would a recruit, coming through if you had, 3, 4, or 5 years of tape to kind of pull from. But it's not nearly as, it's not nearly as in depth as normal. And I don't, I don't know that Indiana is necessarily going to be saying, geez, look at these two games, come be a part of this. And I don't think this dramatically changes the sales pitch, if that makes sense. But what I think it does allow Indiana to do is have some film to kind of hold up to players and say, listen, we've been talking to you conceptually about this is how we would use you. This is the sort of role that we're outlining. This is kind of the example of how we think you can get better. And this is the way you're going to fit into this offense. Well, now you've actually got some film of guys wearing Indiana jerseys, practice jerseys, but jerseys nonetheless, that you can carry back and say, here's what we're talking about. This is Indiana running the stuff and, going through the schemes that we've been selling to you for X number of months now. And so I think that's probably where it helps, but I don't know that it's, because you're certainly not going to sell them on another preseason tour because Indiana's not going on one for at least another 4 years. But I think that's probably, to my mind, where, the one big advantage.
I think most people care about a postseason tour more than anything else. One last thing, Purdue commit Miles Coven offered $500,000 for 2 years to go to the Overtime Elite League. Little note, but that's a lot of money for a kid to turn down.
I had no idea about that, but I mean, this, the math on all this stuff is just going to keep changing.
Yep, I'm pretty sure that nobody's going to offer me $500,000 for anything anytime soon, though. So we're all good there. Zach, man, I appreciate you so much. Hope you get to enjoy the last few hours down there before you come back, and have a safe trip back. And we'll see you out at football practice this week.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jim, as always.
Zach Osterman from the Indy Star. Make sure you follow him or become a subscriber. I am. We've got more coming up. We'll hear from Todd Leary, hear what he had to say about this weekend, and we've got plenty more comments from you guys and much more. Indiana Sports Beat Radio back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for a relaxed
So just to remind you, I know we already said Todd, and then we have Race Thompson, Trace Jackson, Xavier Johnson, and I didn't cut up Mike Woodson's. His is like 4 minutes, but I have the entirety of Mike Woodson's from Sunday.
Okay.
You can play the whole thing if you want, or you can just wave at me to cut when you want to stop with Woodson if you end up playing it.
All right. Let me get that order again.
All right.
So we got Todd.
You've got Race and Trace.
Race.
Not together.
Trace.
They're separate.
All right. Todd,
And
Race,
then,
Trace.
Xavier Johnson.
X.
And then Woodson.
And Woody.
All right, got 30 seconds. I'm going to bring us back in.
For a new or used vehicle, Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington's got you covered. They're Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. For deals like this, how about a new 2020 Honda Civic LX front-wheel drive lease for just $180 a month? Or a new 2021 Honda Accord LX front-wheel drive lease for just $270 a month. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Wyatt hitting up says, good, cool seeing Eric Gordon down in the Bahamas talking to the team. Absolutely. The truth. Robert Carter's on. He's down in Evansville area. Thanks for joining us, brother. Yo Smith says, how's everyone feeling about Jalen Hood-Schifino? Well, no idea, to be honest with you. It's a tough class. It's an unusual mix. His final five. I don't have them all memorized, but it was just kind of an unusual mix that IU's not usually in. I think from where the schools are from. I think Texas is one of the schools, and I can't even remember, but I think that word getting out about this weekend, although you could not see it, if he wants to find out what went on with this weekend, he can, and he will see that Taylor Bates was very successful, that this team was very successful. He can find out about it. And as always, the truth needs some money and some pizza. Speaking of pizza, the truth, you need to go to Yogi's, man. They now have pizza, good pizza. And it reminds me of a certain pizza that you can get in many places around the state, except for Bloomington until now. I'm not going to say what store it is because they're based out of Lafayette, but they don't have any of those stores here. But oh yeah, I had some of that pizza yesterday at Arnie's. Very, very good. So now Yogi's has pizza. So we'll be giving some of that away during the post-game shows. We'll be giving all kinds of giveaways throughout the season. Football, basketball, we got all kinds of stuff coming up. Fun stuff for you to do. Senior Ache says, Zach, I missed that. I'm bad. What's your take on Parker Stewart? I wished I would have had that, Senior Ache. I missed that, but we'll get a lot more from that this week. We'll be talking a lot more about who did what and how everything went. The truth's going to be in Bloomington on 18. Well, we have to get you over to Yogi's to get you some pizza. There you go. We'll take care of that on the 18th. Yo Smith's down in Tennessee, man. Oh, Tennessee is on the list. No, he's talking about the list. You got, Tennessee, not Texas. That's right. It was Tennessee. Tennessee, Florida, Memphis, Indiana, one other, I think. There you go. Indiana, Memphis, Tennessee, Texas, and Florida. So they're both on there. Tim says maybe Trace Jackson will reach out. But, that's just an unusual group to see Indiana. And it's usually, you'll get another Big Ten school. But this is, Memphis and then Tennessee and the SEC and then Texas, soon to be SEC, but Big 12 and Florida in the SEC. So a lot of Southern flavor there. Indiana, the only Northern school. So you got that going for you, which I don't know is nice or not. But Smith points out Indiana and Tennessee are the only places he took visits to. So there you go. Tennessee, not exactly. Well, I don't know. That's a good. I forgot about Rick Barnes doing a great job down there. They've got a nice arena. It's not Indiana, but I think that having Woody here, and even though, like I said, he couldn't see what happened this weekend, he'll get the reports. He might not. He might like what he saw, or hear some about Tamar Bates. The Truth's daughters go to IU. Cool. Well, make sure you let me know when you're up here. When was it? He said 8/18. That's Wednesday. Yeah, let me know. I have no idea what I'm doing. That's 2 days from now. My mind is so rattled, but Todd Leary, let's hear what he had to say yesterday about this weekend's game. Yeah, it's where my mind was getting blanked out. John, last night we had the IU post-game show with Todd Leary coming to you live from Yogi's, of course. Is talking about that great pizza I had afterwards. But Todd he'll tell you how it is. I mean, I like to do it, but he's obviously knows what he's talking about when it comes to Indiana basketball. And John, if you're ready, let's fire it away.
Everyone that I had talked to early on, I think kind of said the same thing, in that, this team they're playing is a veteran team that's played together for a long time. They'll probably beat the heck out of us. They'll to win both of these games. First of all, that's a big accomplishment. Okay, so that's great. But that's not the big takeaway from the weekend. I mean, for me, the biggest things that I wanted to see and hear about as much as anything was the interaction between the coaches and the players. And that I thought every single report that we got was something that looked like Mike Woodson was trying to do a whole bunch of teaching and the players were receptive to it. That's not something I think that we've seen a whole lot of.
Not in the last 4 years.
Seasons. Yeah.
I'll say it. Don't worry.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not trying to I hope Archie Miller goes and has a terrific career off somewhere and does great. I hope his system meshes with some players that he gets and all that. I'm not rooting negatively for him, but it was time for a change. I think that was obvious to almost everyone. And that right now, this team, what I wanted to see the most out of anything was how everyone interacted together.
And they interacted well. Todd's big on positive touches. We talked about that, and because he's pointed out during certain games and things in the past. But the camaraderie. You talk about Miller Kopp on the bench after he gets hurt, staying in the game mentally, yelling things out. That's to be a team. You have to be a team. This team certainly looks like it's on his way for that. Alan talking about got him on we were on the talk of pizza now. He's down in, oh my God, Bonnie and Clyde's on Dixie Highway in Louisville, the old Dixie Highway. Take cash. It's a cash only business. Awesome food. I've heard that about that place. It's very similar to that. We were talking about Schifino a minute ago. Ross points out Memphis has all the FedEx NIL dollars. There's some maybe he wants to go to work for a pharmaceutical company. Who knows? But yeah, I don't think that he's going to have problems with NIL. But you know what? There you go. That could be. Scoop Bates appears to be a great positive addition to the project. Yeah, Tamar Bates is a stud, man. The kid's going to be really good. He is good. He's not going to be good. He is good. And coming off the bench right now, I think is good for him. He gets to sit there and watch the games open. And I'm sure he's sitting next to a coach. And a coach is talking to him, pointing some things out, learning. Because this kid is going to be in the starting lineup, I think, unless that's part of the plan to bring him off the bench. But which would give you a hell of a bench. I mean, you're bringing him in, and then bringing in Rob Finney the way he's playing with his new role. Then you've got Michael Durr. Man, Indiana could set themselves up for a second wave to come in and be really, really set there. Pete points out that Indiana Sports Beat NIL dollars. Come on. Man, you better open up the checkbook. Jim has dumplings at the chicken house. Oh, yes. I've had dumplings at the chicken house. That's in New Albany on Charlestown Road. They do have good fried chicken. But apparently the best fried chicken in Bloomington there's a gas station on 3rd Street that I've heard has the best fried chicken, and I keep forgetting to stop by and try it. Maybe I'll get to do that today. Hopefully. Don't know how we got on fried chicken, but why not? Now I'm getting hungry. I already had breakfast. Wyatt said that Indiana may have their entire bench in the running for Big Ten Sixth Man of the Year. Well, if Tamar Bates keeps coming off the bench, it won't. But yeah, they're looking. Last year, Indiana had 0 bench. The one thing I didn't ask Zach about, and I'm not trying to be negative about Trey or anything, but Trey Galloway played 19 minutes yesterday. We talked about this on the postgame show, and his stat line was he had a turnover. That was it. 19 minutes on the floor, and your stat line shows 1 turnover. Christian Lander was in for less than 3 minutes and was 2 of 2, scored 4 points. I don't know what you can do for 19 minutes that nothing show up on the stat sheet. Or you got a foul that can really justify that length of time. But I'm not the coach, so we'll see. Jason says Bates and Kopp are his two favorites from the weekend. Yeah, you have to like, you know what Kopp brings, and he showed it. He showed it. That's exactly what he brings. And right off the bat, his first shot was a three. Bang. Race Thompson hit a three yesterday. Bang. Bates coming off the bench, looking like a veteran. He's going to do well. Looking at Jordan Geronimo makes him want to work out. Yo Smith, as I talked about him, and he does. He is an OG Anunoby type, just an inch shorter, I think. But they both have that big, wide wingspan, really good defensively. And this is a kid that's really raw. He comes from he thought he was going to play at Division III, and he's just kind of raw, which reminds me of OG Anunoby. He was raw, but just unbelievably talented and athletic. And he's playing in the NBA right now. Jordan Geronimo, I doubt, had NBA aspirations not that long ago. I don't know if he thought that they were real. But this kid, and if he can develop any type of offensive game, he could find a role for himself professionally. Maybe not in the NBA, but definitely professionally. No Anthony Leo update. I don't think that there's anything serious there, but we'll see if they give us one this week. They're usually pretty hush-hush on injuries. They don't like to talk about it. And so there's no point in speculating. I didn't see anything personally, so there's nothing to even speculate on. But like I said, I haven't heard anything. Well, we don't know. Indian Creek Walker. He just didn't play. Neither did Michael Durr. Neither did Logan Duncombe. They're all down there in the Bahamas. So it's probably precautionary. You get, see, who's under concussion protocol? Is that Leo? Yeah. Is he the one? So that's right. He's under concussion protocol. So hopefully it's not too serious. He can come back from that as soon as possible. I just thought of the football team wears these little padded covers on top of their helmets during practice now. It's a pretty cool deal. It really reduces. It's funny how the exterior padding reduces the blows almost as the interiors. But I think that maybe in basketball practice, they should start wearing these. They're not cumbersome at all. They're thin. They're like little bubble things, but it just goes over top of the helmet. You could wear that in basketball practice. Make sure it's cut back here where it doesn't affect the vision at all. I'm not kidding. I'm serious. As hard as kids go today, I would. It's just when you're going at it hard that day, every day in practice. Yeah, man. I think it's something they consider. Why not?
Let's go ahead and hit our last break.
Let's do it. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans, whether you're
Ain't it amazing how good a show can be when you have content, actual game content?
Who are you telling, man? Oh, yes, it's relaxing.
You don't sit there and think about what to talk about next.
I don't have to sit here and stress.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to worry about that. I don't have to worry about my ulcer flaring. Maybe I can get rid of my ulcer.
Maybe.
Let's see. We have anything left? Are we?
You got, if you want to use them, you have the
things.
sound. You have all the sound from the post game if you want to use that. And you'll have about 10 minutes.
Won't need to use all of it.
Yeah, just use whatever you want. Race, Trace, Xavier, and Mike.
How long are the players?
The players are none of them is longer than like a minute and a half, if I remember correctly. They're all pretty short. Mike Woodson's about 4 or 5 minutes, but I didn't clip that up. If you want to save Mike, I can clip that up and use it later.
We'll probably might save Mike for tomorrow or something. Let's do the players for sure.
Okay.
Race Thompson. The Shop Indy.
What are you looking at?
People tweet deck.
Oh.
Race Thompson planned to kind of he's got his own shirt out now.
That's gonna be the easiest way for these kids to make money is t-shirts.
Yes, and make them reasonably priced so people buy them, not $35 freaking dollars.
Yeah, I feel like 20 to 25 would be better.
Well, yes, that's the price of a damn t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
The one Trace Jackson Davis's is like $35 or something.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to bring us back in.
Carmel and on 86th Street in Indy have a long list of craft beers and all of the right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Monday. Coming off of a weekend of a lot of things. Brickyard 400. Who ended up winning that? I just read AJ
Allmendinger.
Yeah, started with an A. I fell asleep last night trying to watch the finish of it. Too tired after poor Chase Briscoe from Mitchell, Indiana. Man, right there. And goes down at the end. Penalties. Race Thompson played well. Talked to the media as well after the games this weekend. Let's hear what he had to say.
You had 13 rebounds, I believe. What made you so effective tonight, crashing the boards?
I don't know. I was just trying to attack the glass. I said I only had a couple rebounds last game. So we tried to be aggressive at chasing after them today.
First game, obviously, a little more of a track meet. It's up and down. This one, a little more defensive oriented, kind of grinder. Why do you think you guys are able, early on, to win games like two different ways?
I think these last 2 months, we've been in really good shape, really focusing on defense, keying in on offense, the little things. So I think that really has helped us be able to do both.
What are the things about the defense that makes it pretty efficient, early? I mean, it's August.
Coach Wilson, I think really what it is we're in shape. We're really in shape. We can get up into the ball, and we know that if we get tired, we have a sub that's going to come in and do the same thing that we were doing. So really just playing hard is something that we're going to do from now on.
What are the things tactically that you feel good about your defense right now? It seems like the switching and kind of where things come from is a little different.
I think it's just easy. We trust each other. There was a lot of communication. I'm trying to be vocal, even more vocal than I was last year. So, communication and all that stuff, I think that's just really helping.
Number two are in the Bahamas. That was Race Thompson. He's a veteran, and he had three-pointer. That had to be great confidence for him, because if that's something he can develop, wow. Everybody talks about Trace Jackson Davis needing to develop his shot, and he does. If Race Thompson can do that, you just never know. I didn't think Juwan Morgan was going to really be able to make it into the NBA, but he worked hard and he got over that little edge that got him there. Race Thompson's another guy like that. He's going to have to work hard. He's not someone that I expected to get to the NBA, and we don't know that he can. But if a dude that big and you develop an outside shot that works, there's room for you to play professionally without question. Trace Jackson Davis, the other big underneath for Indiana. Of a guy, speaking of a guy that needs to develop a shot, but played very well. Man, those guys, between those two, what did Race have? 8 and 13 rebounds? Holy crap. And Trace Jackson Davis said, what do you have? It's almost reversed, like 13 and 8 or 11 and 8, something like that. That's a ton of rebounds. You've got 13 assists from Rob Finney and Xavier Johnson. You've got however many rebounds, 21 rebounds between these two guys? Jeez. That's two guys doing a lot of stuff because they're being opened up, because less is required of them. They can focus in other places, and that's part of what's making this team better already. But let's hear what Trace Jackson Davis had to say.
It's our first time being together as a squad. We've been playing against each other for the last 2 months, so finally taking it out on someone else, as Coach Woodson would say. But I think overall, we grew together as a team. We came closer. We're all brothers already, but we all hang out together. We're all just tight-knit bond, and then on the court, we're just together all the time. So we had adversity today in the first half. They went on a little run. They were punching us a little bit, but we never folded, and we had our leaders pick us up, and I thought we did a really good job responding in the second half.
Trace, at the end of the first half, when that kind of double-digit lead went down to, I think it was 1 or 2, what do you think the key was for trying to flip some of that momentum? I think you guys scored 7 going into halftime, but what do you think kind of flipped?
Most definitely. Just listening to Coach Woodson, at the timeout, he was telling us that we just needed to relax. Started off with defense. We got to get stops, and I think that's what we did going into the half. And then running in transition was another big thing. And then coming off of screens, I thought when we started flipping the screens, it really helped us on the ice so that our guards could get downhill.
That was Trace Jackson Davis giving the veteran, Wiley veteran, giving his thoughts on it. Now, Xavier Johnson is new to the fold. And starting in the lineup right now, he's played a lot at Pitt and didn't shoot the ball well in yesterday's game, but a lot of assists, like I said, still getting things flowing. Indiana didn't shoot the ball well overall, but their defense, and that's the thing. Great example of a game where they did not shoot the ball as well as you'd like them to see, but the defense does so many things that it overcomes that. They have more players that can do more things. That helps overcome that. And it won't always, but it can. But if you don't have that as an option, it can't. Luckily it does. Xavier Johnson, like I said, one of the new faces. Let's hear what he had to say.
Obviously, first game you guys got out, kind of a track meet. This game a little more defensive oriented. How do you think you guys responded defensively?
I think we did well. We didn't give them any points in the second half. First half, we didn't either. We gave them the same amount of points as last game, and that's our main thing is defense. It's not really offense.
Why do you think you guys were effective, though?
We were in the passing lanes. We get up into our man. We had a couple mental lapses on defense, but we'll be better by November.
Is this, guys, I've got Trace right over here. Is this kind of reflects the idea that maybe you guys can win a game more than one way? You don't need things to go well for you offensively, play well defensively.
Yeah, the main thing for us to win is always defense. It's defense. We got to get stops, and we're going to play the same way on offense because we run the same offense, and we're just going to get each other open.
Defense, baby. Defense wins championships, and it does. It really doesn't. That transcends all sports, but you've got to know they're back defensively. It's a focus. It's a focus that is obviously working. Let's see if you know. I'll go ahead. Ross says, if you know anyone in Afghanistan, an Afghanistan vet, please check on them. They're struggling right now. So yeah, help out. You know anyone in the former military? Absolutely. Reach out to them. Appreciate our military for all that they do, all first responders and those on the front lines. Appreciate all of you guys. Man, this show has been fun one, another fun one. Monday, start off to go. We got plenty coming tomorrow with, as always, Kevin Brockway will join us. We'll talk to Mike DeCourcy, Chronic Hoosier. I'm sure he's going to be excited. Later in the week, Kyle Nedrip, of course. Bob Kravitz will join us. We've got lots to go this week. So it's going to be a fun one. Football practice is underway. We'll be talking to Coach Tom Allen again. And so we've got the week is back at it, man. We're back here. We'll try to find out how the scrimmage went as I was gone over the weekend, but plenty to get to. Man, you guys were great today. Awesome with all the comments. We're going to be having a fun season. I can see that. It's going to be a great, great year and looking forward to it. But cannot thank everybody enough. A big thanks to Zach Osterman, of course, for joining us. He'll be joining us weekly. Brought to you by Yogi's, by the way. And if you didn't know, Dustin DePirick has recently taken a position back at the Herald in Bloomington. So he's going to be writing at the Herald now, and we'll have him on with us as well. So try to keep you covered and up to date on every way possible. So you know where to go. Indiana Sports Beat Radio has got you completely covered on all things for Indiana sports, Colts, Hoosiers, Pacers, whatever you need, Indiana high school basketball. Back tomorrow to do it again. A big thanks to John, the producer, and you guys. Without you, there's no reason for us to be here. So we'll wish you guys a great day. I hope you go out and have yourselves a great Monday and a great start to the week. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.